Welcome to another edition of the Recruiting Scoop. I'm Jarret Johnson. I'm joined by the Mighty Joe Yeager. Mighty Joe, man, the Red Raiders are hot on the recruiting trail right now, both football and basketball. Two big commits here recently, really exciting stuff. Let's start with your favorite, Red Raider basketball, because they got a huge pickup. You just wrote about them. And I'm going to butcher this. I'm sorry for everybody out there. But Chibuzo Agbo, I believe, 6'7" forward out of Cali. He visited last week. We actually saw him at practice on Friday. I remember you being like, "Who is that guy?" in street clothes, because he's a legit 6'7" dude. I mean, I stood next to him and he was like looking down at me, like I was his kid or something. Big dude too. I mean, he's stacked. But we saw him at practice. He was there. We saw his dad there. I believe his mom was also in town with him, checking out practice. Saw him and Chris Beard embrace, and I remember thinking, I was trying to look over at you, get your attention, like, it's done. I mean, like, it's going to happen. I didn't know it was going to happen this fast because he committed on Monday. Huge get. First commit of the 2020 class. Just what was your takeaway from the Red Raiders landing him?
Yeah, that hug, he may have just told Chris right before that, and then got a hug, and then just announced it later on. It's possible. It's possible. But we could tell by the attention that everybody was giving him that this wasn't just some guy that walked in off the street, and he didn't look like it either. Right. This is an interesting player for me from Texas Tech's standpoint, because a lot of the guys that Tech has been signing have been sort of freakish athletes, okay? Just, everything above the rim,
yes,
up and down the court, and all this stuff, side-to-side movement everywhere. And I'm not saying Agbo is not an athletic player. He is. But he strikes me more as almost kind of a blue-collar kind of a player. A kind of a glue guy, a guy who's going to be very, very productive in a lot of different ways. You're going to look at the stat sheet and say, man,
he did a little bit.
Agbo had a heck of a game here, but it's not necessarily one of those deals where you're just going to be fainting from the spectacular plays that you've watched from the guy or anything like that. So, but a big physical guy, a wide body. I mean, that's another thing. You don't see Beard necessarily recruit these big old brutes, most of the time.
They turn them into them after they get here. John Riley does.
There, and they start, they pack it on a little bit, but they don't come here like that. They're usually slender kind of guys. But this is a guy who's starting out mighty, mighty big. Looks like he's been with Riley already for a couple of years. Yeah. So you wonder what's going to happen after he has been here with Riley for a couple of years. Yeah, He's clocking in at about 220 right now, but he may wind up playing at about 250. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
250?
I would not be surprised. Wow. I would not be surprised.
So that begs the next question, because he has, and you mentioned in your article, he has obvious small forward kind of wing skills at his size, but he's big enough. He has the length, and he sounds like he's going to have the bulk to play power forward as well. So where do you see him fitting in? And is this another case of the perfect positionless kind of guy?
Yeah, he's definitely a guy who will play both those forward positions. I mean, listen, Barkley was a power forward.
Right.
At 6'4". Yeah. I'm not saying he's Barkley or anything, but a lot of times to play that forward position, it's more a matter of like physical strength and girth or whatever.
Too.
And aggressiveness and toughness than it is necessarily being all that tall. And he's 6'7" right now. It wouldn't surprise me if he winds up 6'8" too. I mean, he's still got another year. He probably will wind up 6'8". So, he's one of those guys that can definitely play both of those forward positions. But the intriguing thing about him really is, we talk about him being a physical, strong specimen, is he's a guy who can really shoot it too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he can step out and hit that. You got to mark him really, really closely out there. He's going to make you pay. And everything that I'm
perfect for this system.
Sure, he's that stretch forward, and so he's made a lot of improvement in a recent short period of time in that jump shot, because he started out not so long ago. That was a weakness for him, and now it's becoming a strength. So if you project that to continue, then you got yourself really an interesting player, a guy who has that small forward wing shooting range, but he has that physicality and strength to play inside as well. And so I don't think Tech has had anybody quite like him in a long, long time.
I don't either. And, you and I can go on and on talking about just this one commit in basketball for 2 or 3 videos, to be honest, because he really is an intriguing, and like you said in your recent article, unique player there. what I like, what I just keep thinking about is in this motion offense, they're going to have to guard him. If they don't, he's going to crush teams. You know, think about how many open shots the motion offense gets for bigs. You know, those mid-range shots, like, you know, standstill shots. And he can stretch out to the three-point line, like you've mentioned before. So I'm really excited about that. They're going to have to honor him. That's going to open up passing lanes and driving lanes. It's just a perfect fit.
Yeah, and with that size, you think he's going to be really good as a screener as well.
Yes.
In that motion offense. So I'm sure they're looking at that too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a huge part of the motion offense. All right, but moving on to football, Joe. Man, this is a huge get too. Philip Blidi is a guy from New Mexico, Portales, New Mexico. We talked, I think, in the most recent recruiting scoop, we talked about kind of building a fence around West Texas and then also just the area. And you mentioned specifically New Mexico. Well, here you go. #1 rated player out of New Mexico. He's a 3-star guy. He's another big bad dude you don't want to see down a dark alley. I believe like 6'3", 240. This is a guy that can easily put on like 30 pounds, 30, 35 pounds, and move over and play defensive tackle. So you can see him at 4-eye. You can see him as a more of a pass rushing defensive end. You can see him as like the Raider position too, if you don't want to pack that muscle on him. So I mean, here's another versatile guy, which they're recruiting. Coach Wells and the football recruiting is kind of starting to remind me of the basketball team, not in necessarily how highly the guys are recruited, but that they're really big into versatile players. I mean, they'll get running backs to play cornerback, running backs to play linebackers, or they'll get guys who can play both safety and corner, guys who can play multiple positions on the defensive front like Blidi. And this guy is a guy I feel like you have to keep this guy in your backyard, or what are you doing on the recruiting trail? I feel like it's a real mistake if you let this guy slip out to somewhere else. And he's a player, a recruit that when teams like TCU, Oklahoma State, and other Big 12 rivals, once they start going down their boards, they're gonna reach out to Blidi. So it's gonna be one of those cases where you're gonna have to keep recruiting him all the way till you get him on campus, Jim.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you don't write the guys off from New Mexico. I mean, there was a guy named Urlacher. Who, I mean, and Tech didn't even recruit him, you know, and he wanted to come to Tech. Yeah, I mean, he dominates. Yeah. He really does, and he's a real athlete. I mean, he is quick, he is fast, he is strong, he's got good size. He chases stuff down from behind, and he's too much for those guys to handle out there right now. And so you wonder how that translates, say, in Texas competition. Sure. And how that factors into it. But yeah, just from an athletic standpoint, and I don't know all of his measurables and whatnot, but he passes the eyeball test, that's for sure. And I would be intrigued to see him if they do kind of keep him lean and mean at that Raider position. Yeah. You know, so they got Xavier Benson in there right now. He's clocking in at 220, and maybe it's just the old school in me that kind of makes me a little bit nervous. A guy at 220, I'd like somebody just a little bit bigger. And Blidi is a guy who is kind of like my image of what that hybrid DE outside linebacker should look like if they choose to keep him there.
Yeah, just real quick recapping where the Red Raiders 2020 football commit class, or where the 2020 class is right now. They're up to 15 commits. Their last I saw, as of publication of this story, they were 45th in the country and 7th in the Big 12. So they're moving up the list. I mean, they were way back at 90 at one point, not that long ago in the country, and last in the Big 12. So it's good to see that, and we'll keep you updated. Keep it on Inside the Red Raiders for your latest recruiting news. Mighty Joe, great stuff from you as always. Thank y'all for watching, and until next time.